Is Sting finally ready to knock Ric Flair off his throne and become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion? Question. With Dusty Rhodes at their side, will the Road Warriors take revenge on the men who brutalized them, Ivan Koloff and the Powers of Pain? Question. Are wrestling's new breed of young gladiators equipped with what it takes to be victorious on a day when anything goes? There are so many questions, and the time has finally come to find out the answers. Now, Superstation TBS presents Clash of the Champion.
Welcome in to Retro Wrestling Rewind. This is episode number 15. We are talking Clash of the Champions number 1. As always, I am one half. Yes, I am 50% of the greatest podcast tag team in the history of this great sport. As always, I am former professional wrestling ring announcer, retired David Fine, alongside my true brother from another mother, the real Long Island Ice Z, the hell with Zack Ryder, the man who collects action figures.
He doesn't even live in Long Island anymore.
I know. Well,
just me and Mick Foley and Mike Mondo.
You know why? You know why he doesn't live in freaking Long Island, New York? Because he had to buy a house that he could afford in Orlando to put all his kid figures. But anyway, Alex G, man, it is Clash of the Champions 1. As we were talking about in the pregame, as we said, this is probably the best show that they put on that whole entire year. Do you think could you put it on par as being the best Clash that they've had?
There's a lot of clashes to go through. It's probably the best one from top to bottom. This is probably the show. If someone had to ask me, hey, I want to know about the NWA. Tell me about Jim Crockett Promotions. I pop in the tape of Clash Champions 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I mean,
it's stacked. It's stacked. It's so much better than Starrcade '87. A hell of a lot better than the Bunkhouse Stampede, which preceded this, and it's a lot better than any other event they had in 1988, including Great American Bash and Starrcade. So,
I mean, before we get into that, I mean, there's a whole thing's building up to it. I mean, we have the whole incident with Jim Crockett, Magnum TA, and of course, Dusty Rhodes. They were talking about that. We'll get into that in a minute. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at the RW Rewind on Twitter. It's the same on Instagram. We can go onto our website, retrowrestlingrewind.com. Of course, right now we have our Patreon account. We're kind of doing some little switcheroo on it where we want to expand on that, and it's
the Swerve Bro.
Just the old Swerve Bro, but we'll kind of have more on that at the end of the show. And also, this week, yes, that's right, folks, this week we are confirmed we are going to be at WrestleCon. We got a booth, don't know the number. They don't announce those until February, but according to my co-host, he really wants to be next to the beautiful and vivacious and at her age still really good-looking Missy Hyatt. Is that true?
Missy Hyatt is one of the most underrated wrestling minds in the history of professional wrestling. Follow her on Twitter because she is still currently a fan. She's very knowledgeable of the modern product and can probably talk you to death about the modern product of what's going on today. So
yeah,
really underrated. She knows her shit.
And I mean, and people that know their shit, Alex G. I mean, I'm just here for my looks. Oh, this is a podcast, so you can't see me. Oh, damn. But no, Alex G has all. I mean, he knows everything about everything. And speaking of everything, Clash of the Champions 1, it was happening in the NWA's backyard and the WCW's backyard. I mean, Greensboro, North Carolina.
Here's the deal. Now, a lot of people will claim right off the bat that the fact that Starrcade '87 wasn't from Greensboro, it was from Chicago, killed the town, right? No one was excited about wrestling in Greensboro anymore. They stabbed the fans in the back. But I can tell you about this. On March 27th, 1988, this crowd was fucking popping. This crowd was on its feet for everything. The crowd reaction was incredible. So for those people who say that Greensboro was dead, and they might be true because a lot of those people attended those shows, and maybe they were for the house shows, and maybe they were for other pay-per-views, but for this particular show, the crowd's on fire.
But the one thing people may not know, this was head-to-head with WrestleMania.
Yeah, because the whole Starrcade 87 debacle with Survivor Series, right? And then you had the Royal Rumble, which was the same night as the Bunkhouse Stampede. So Jim Crockett, along with the Turner organization, was like, screw it. We're going to fuck with WrestleMania 4. And they put this Clash of Champions, which from top to bottom is so much better than WrestleMania 4. It's ridiculous. And it's amazing. It did a 5.6 rating on TBS, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, the Superstation, I mean, it's back in the day when you could watch every Atlanta Braves game, no matter, I mean, for one.
That's why there's a lot of Atlanta Braves fans here in New York, because they would watch WCW and they would, watch the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I mean, wrestling did get preempted sometimes for the Braves.
It happened.
It happened a lot. But leading up to Clash 1, they open the show. They say they're going to have more information about this whole thing with Jim Crockett, Dusty Rhodes, and Magnum TA. I mean, kind of go into that. I mean, what were your thoughts on that whole situation? I mean, what led up to the whole incident with Jim Crockett?
Well, the whole Crockett situation. This is something that goes back to kind of back in the day. Now they kind of teased us with this announcement or whatever. Again, it has more to do with what's going on with the Bash that's coming around this summer, and then Magnum TA, who not for nothing is going to be I guess managing, because the big announcement for this show, to be completely honest, was the Crockett Cup. And you had Frances Crockett out there making her announcements, which I love Frances Crockett. She's awesome. I don't know why she's out there making that announcement, though, for the teams for the Crockett Cup.
Yeah, then that was the first Crockett Cup, correct? No. Yeah, the first 86. But was it one of the? I think it was when the Road Warriors won. It was she had the awkward, money. Given to the Road Warriors.
Well, that was Mrs. Crockett. That was the Mother Crockett did the first one.
Whatever it was very odd.
It was weird, but it's not stranger than her appearance at Clash of Champions too, though.
Oh well, yeah,
which is bizarre. Which I think she's dating that guy that's on the yacht. But when we talk about Clash of Champions 2 and how ridiculous that show, that's the first time I actually saw WCW was Clash of Champions 2.
That was her first foray into.
That's the first time I saw it. Now I started watching wrestling regularly in 1989, but I remember the show because I remember Luger getting beat up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a different. I mean, we're kind of put the old.
That's what we do. We go off topic on this show.
We go off topic, but that's okay. I mean, I have a feeling that we're going to be covering a lot of the Clash of the Champions kind of order, kind of a new series where we just. Say, hey, let's go talk about all. I mean, there's so many clashes, and
the clashes and the Saturday Night's Main Events,
and the clashes. I mean, they're good ones, they're bad ones.
They're essentially. I mean, if you want to look at it in a modern perspective, obviously your Starrcades, your Bashes, your whatever the fucks, or your WrestleManias, your Royal Rumbles, are the big fours. But back in the day, there was no B pay-per-views. So essentially, your Clashes and your Saturday Night's Main Events are your B pay-per-views.
Yeah, I mean, there was 35 Clash of the Champions according to...
It was 27 Saturday Night's Main Event. So
yeah, I mean, according to Wikipedia, and of course Wikipedia is never wrong. I mean, this first Clash, I think it put Sting on the.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the big.
It made his career. I mean, it was, right. but kind of let's kind of start it off. The first match, Mike Rotundo taking on Jimmy Garvin in a college rules match.
Jimmy Garvin didn't go to no college.
I mean, he probably went to a school hard knock. He went to a school Hard Knocks, but I mean that's probably it.
It's ridiculous.
What were your thoughts on this? I mean, Mike Rotundo. I mean,
I don't know what they were doing with this gimmick. Now, when we talk about Varsity Club, right? In my imagination, and I think what Kevin Sullivan pitched was like the Illuminati, the Skull and Crossbone Society, your Masons, your Freemasons, like your kind of secret societies that kind of, if you ever went to colleges and the whole, the Greek kind of, stuff that goes on there, then, you kind of get it. And he's like the games master. He's the guy in the hood, right? That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
From that point of view, like this guy who's taking advantage of these college dudes. But it never came across well on television. So, So it just seems like, oh, these guys are just all cocky guys from college, and going to college is bad because they're bad guys.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a terrible gimmick. I mean, it had Rick Steiner at Michigan, had Mike Rotundo from
Look,
Syracuse.
they even had Dan Spivey, and they had Dan Spivey, and then they had Dr. Death.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it was definitely a weird.
Bizarre.
It was
bizarre.
a
And this match is bizarre. And wasn't this for the? I thought this was for the TV championship, but I guess it wasn't.
I mean, I mean, I thought it was too, but it was. I mean, obviously, it was not. But I mean, it was. I'm glad, thank God, it wasn't, because it would have been a terrible match for the TV title. I mean,
So you had the one count pin, right, which is ridiculous, and then eventually you just had Mike Rotundo win. So it's like, oh, okay.
but wait. I'm watching it back on the network. Teddy Long is walking around. It was for the TV title.
Yeah, it doesn't say that here on my notes.
Yeah, it doesn't say it on the notes, but it's just. I mean, I don't see Jimmy Garvin ever being a TV champion. I mean, at
least he's not a rock star yet.
No, he's not. I mean, we know you love, because we know you got all their albums,
the
right?
Freebirds are in Dallas at this point, I believe, in '88, either Dallas or Continental, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Match went 6 minutes 10 seconds. I mean, it was.
It's an interesting concept, but doesn't jive with the rest of the show. And not for nothing, this probably shouldn't have been an opener. Like, where's Brad Armstrong and Tim Horner to open this up? Like, come on, guys.
I mean, come on, bring in Sam Houston. I don't know, just bring in anybody. I mean, just
he's in the Battle Royal WrestleMania 4.
Hey, I mean, he's wrestling that night. So I mean,
he's wrestling.
He can't. And then the next match number 2 on the card.
This match is amazing. Now, a lot of people will say that the Midnight Express greatest opponents are the Rock and Roll Express. I think it's the Fantastics.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton fan. I mean, but I'm not. To be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of this incarnation of the Midnight Express.
Do you like Dennis Condrey better?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Dennis Condrey original, from the beginning.
Here's the thing. We've seen more Stan Lane because they're doing more pay-per-views and they had him more on television, right? So we got to see Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane in more competitive matches than we did see Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey in competitive matches. So I think that's why they're a little bit more well-renowned in terms of the team.
Yeah. Now,
I do think that Stan Lane is a flashier worker and probably worked better with the Fantastics, where Dennis Condrey worked better with the Rock and Roll.
Yeah, man. I mean, Dennis was, he's, old. I mean, Stan Lane was just kind of, he was there he was a good wrestler, but he was kind of there to be the pretty boy. I mean, because
originally they wanted to bring in, Cornette wanted to bring in Tom Pritchard.
Yeah.
With Bobby Eaton, because after Dennis Condrey just kind of walked out of the NWA.
Because we know, Bobby Eaton's he's not the pretty boy of the group. No,
he's beautiful. He's not pretty.
No, he is not. He is beautiful, Bobby Eaton. They defeated the Fantastics Midnight Express.
Now, they did a dusty finish here.
Disqualification.
We thought the Fantastics has won the United States Tag Team Championship, but Bobby Fulton threw, Randy Anderson over the top rope, and that got disqualified. So they reversed the decision here. And I like the fact that Cornette in this match hits Tommy Young with the bracket for no reason, but then you hit him hard, and Tommy Young doesn't sell it. So it's so bizarre. You just see the front row Section D guys, those infamous fans from Greensboro, with the big Cornette sign in the front.
Yeah, I mean, Cornette was huge in this area. I mean, especially back in the
heel fans loved him. They still love him.
I mean, like I said, I go back to my story of meeting him in Rome, Georgia, and
he's much bigger than people think he is, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
because I met him in New York City at Ring of Honor show, and I was like, wow, you're way bigger than I thought.
You mean as in like taller or
tall, like just tall, just all around big?
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, compared to what he looked like when he debuted, when he was kind of a skinny twerp, and back in, I don't know when he debuted, but it was,
I think it's 83 Memphis.
Yeah, and back in Memphis '83, I mean, he was definitely he had the same. He is probably would go down as probably my top heel manager.
How young he was when he started? Like, he's only like 23 here, 24 years old.
Yeah, I mean, did he start in wrestling, like taking or being
He started out obviously as a fan and started taking pictures, and then He was taking a lot of the backstage pictures for like the 8x10s to sell the gimmick tables, and that's how he got in. He took pictures ringside.
Yeah, I mean it's that. See, folks, that's how you get in. You don't have to be in front of the camera or be the spotlight. You can.
Like he's hanging out with like Eddie Gilbert and Bobby Eaton, like being kids.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, he still is. I mean, he is. Like I was saying in an earlier episode when they had the 10 pounds of gold series of him, and they were at his house. Man, he has a lot of wrestling stuff.
Not only a lot of wrestling collectibles, which he has a ton, but he's a big comic book fan too. And if he has Silver Age comics that I would love to get my hands on. So I'm trying. He doesn't come up here very often with his comic books to sell them, but if ever go down south, I definitely want to check it out and buy some comic books.
And he's not on the list currently of people that are going to be at WrestleCon. I would
probably not going to come up. He doesn't like doing New York.
God, I would love to. I would love to get him on the mic because we could just say, hey, what do you think about this? Click record, walk away. He'd be talking for 2 hours. I mean, he's definitely a talker. And he said I was the smartest man in Rome, Georgia, which is not saying much because there's not many smart people in Rome, Georgia.
You and good old Marty Lundy. That's it.
Jeez. Oh, Marty Lundy. The next match, the Road Warriors, Animal Hawk and Dusty Rhodes defeated the Powers of Pain, Barbarian and the Warlord with Ivan Koloff with number 1 Paul Jones in a barbed wire match.
You know what's interesting? I hate when they do the spot where the weightlifting thing and they broke Animal's face. But I do like the hockey mask that he wore. They probably should have kept that look to freshen them up because that looked pretty badass. Again, the Road Warriors are probably the hottest act in the NWA at the time. Of course, Dusty Rhodes wants to be attached with those guys. And you had the Power of Pain who were I guess guys that can stand up to the Road Warriors. Like they're just big juiced up jack guys. And then you have good old Ivan Koloff here, so former WWF champion. So
I mean, the funny thing is, most, as people know nowadays, I mean, the only show that's really that's only an hour is NXT, their weekly show. And I think the United Kingdom NXT show is an hour, but we know Raw is 3 hours plus.
3 fucking hours long.
It's like, oh my God, it's like, geez. And
a good friend of mine made a point. The reason why NXT is so good is because it's only an hour long. So whatever stupid nonsense they have to cut it. Where in terms of Raw, they're like, oh, we got 3 hours to fill, so leave that stupid nonsense in there.
Yep, and and then SmackDown Live is 2 hours, and
it's better.
But the point of that is, I mean, I'm looking at the times of these events, other than commercials and other stuff. I mean, this was not a very long show.
No,
because it was for TV. It was for TV for TBS when they had to they didn't have 5-hour pre-show. They didn't have it was
not a lot of promos on the show either.
No, it was definitely one of those
right to the action.
I'll give it to them. They knew how to put together a show. They just the fans on TV watching at home, and fans paid to get into the event. They don't want to see a bunch of BS and a bunch of filler matches. That's like they'd rather see
Why do you think the WWF for years did their TV tapings in such weird places, like White Plains, New York? Like they never did it in any big arenas because they were 8 hours long. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean it was. I don't know. That's neither here nor there. Next match had Lex Luger, Barry Windham defeated Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. This is a fucking good match.
Like it's really good. It's scary good.
I mean when you
this might be Luger at his peak, which goes to show you that he should have won the belt at Bash '88, and at the latest he should have won the belt at Starrcade '88.
Yeah, it was when I look back at this when I was rewatching it today, and I was like, God, I mean, Arn and Tully, they were so good. They, at this time, they had JJ with them, and Barry and Lex. This was pre-Barry turn, so
the whole turning comes out of this.
Yeah, so
they're the champions when Barry turns.
Yeah, and it's just like, And we got to talk about the turn later on sometime because that turn was just
Barry,
fun.
no!
That thing was fucking
Jim Ross
awesome.
screams.
And then he puts up the old 4 fingers of excellence and just he leaves. And what were your thoughts? I mean, back in the day, back in the good old days of wrestling, as they would say, they went through the crowd. I mean, they did it all the time. They did it at all the events, but now they don't do that. Did you think that brought the fans? I mean, of course it brought the fans. I mean, do you think it made a better experience for the fans and the wrestlers kind of getting closer to the fans?
I don't know about a better experience, but visually it looks a hell of a lot better.
Yeah,
Trying to go through a sea of people to get to the ring, it looks fucking awesome. Now, I understand why they do it because of insurance purposes, and they don't want people getting stabbed or beaten up, and everyone's so litigious nowadays that if a wrestler bumps into them or even slaps their hand too hard, they're getting sued. So I understand why it happens. It's a shame that it's that way. I wish it wasn't that way, and they could just come through the crowd literally have 3 feet. In terms of an aisle, it would be fantastic.
We're talking about they didn't have any promos on Clash 1, but I look up whenever you're talking. They had Steve Dr. Death Williams doing a promo. I can't hear what he's saying because I had the volume
He's making
muted.
his return.
He doesn't have a match on the show.
No, I think he's coming back from Japan.
And
he does it on the next Clash too, where he's not wrestling; he's just on the show. I think.
I mean, what were your thoughts on Dr. Death? I mean, he's no longer with us. I mean, what were your thoughts on?
It's so weird to me that they didn't push him more. Yeah. Like it should have been, and we talked about this when we talked about Starrcade '87. That the main event of Starrcade '87 should have been Steve Williams taking on Ric Flair to unify the UWF and NWA World Heavyweight Championships. That did not come to fruition, and I don't know why. So they had him essentially. I don't know what they did with that belt. I think they kind of just retired it, but they never really got the most out of Dr. Death. The best Dr. Death we've ever seen was either in Japan, in All Japan, or in Mid-South. But even the WWF kind of dropped the ball with him too, and WCW dropped the ball with him on like 3 or 4 different occasions.
But you're definitely. I'm watching the. We've already talked about this match, but I'm watching the Midnight's fantastic. Yeah, you were correct. Those freaking Cornette fans, they freaking love him. I mean, it's just it's just ridiculous. And I mean,
front row section D.
And I'm not listening to the audio as per norm, but when they take the old music out and put in some generic BS in the revamped network version of the show, it just, I mean, I don't know. It may sound stupid, but it just takes away something.
It does hurt it. I don't know what Anderson and Blanchard came out to, and Sting's music was different at this time than we had the classic Sting and Luger music that we know from like '89.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Road Warriors probably came out to. I think they lost Iron Man, so they're coming out to a generic Iron Man theme that Crockett made, and the Midnights were coming out to the generic Crockett made music too.
It's just I don't know. It's just. I don't know. That may sound stupid, but it's just I'm a fan of going back.
It hurts ECW more. You go back and watch some of the ECW shows.
Yeah.
It hurts ECW a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, because like you said, I mean ECW, a lot of their characters and gimmicks were based on their music.
Not coming out to Enter the Sandman is ridiculous.
They just come out.
Or you have entire New Jack matches where Natural Born Killer plays through the entire match, and they have to redub that. So for me, that's why I like the fact that I own every single ECW event with the original music.
Well, aren't you a special? But
I lost a hard drive. It was on one of my hard drives that burnt out, so I had to go through my garage and find them.
You must have a lot of old tapes in your garage,
dude. You don't even comprehend. Like a lot of those tapes I sold out. So what I did was, back in the day, when we made the move from VHS to DVD, I had a recorder, a DVD recorder that recorded VHS tapes, which I still have. So I went through made all the DVDs, so I had them, and I had you remember those big disc changers like you had for CDs, like the ones you go in the car that had 100.
Yeah,
I had a 501 DVD one. That was ridiculous.
Good Lord.
And that it was only a fraction of the amount of DVDs that I had. So I took the tapes because I had a lot of commercial tapes. My commercial tapes I went and sold on eBay. But my DVDs are out of control in my garage, and I'm bad with being organized, and most of them are not labeled. So for me to go through and try to find something specific, it was very, very difficult. So on that hard drive, I lost all my Ring of Honor stuff, and I lost all my ECW stuff. I found 1 year of Ring of Honor, which I put back on a new hard drive, and the entire run of ECW.
And can you fit anything inside this garage besides your tapes?
Let's see what we have. My daughter's Power Wheels in there. We have the snow thrower. We have a 2-car garage. So.
Okay, good. Well, that's good. At least you didn't take up the entire garage. If I did that, I would.
Well, there's a lot of I get in trouble because there's a lot of Star Wars action figures still mint in the box. That's in my garage too.
Good Lord, boy. Hope you don't ever have to move. It seems like a.
Oh, I'm never moving. I'm fucking dying in this fucking house.
Yeah, it seems like
Better be in the backyard.
That sounds like a nightmare of moving. God, we moved and we don't keep much. It's like, it's like if we don't see it after like a year, we're like, fuck it, toss it in the trash. But that's what you kind of do with kids. If they don't see.
No, we're rapidly running out of space here.
I mean.
It's a decent sized house too. So.
You're gonna have to sell some of your DVDs.
I'm gonna have to get a shed. That's what I'm gonna do. Put a shed in the backyard.
I mean, you could. I mean, it's you do what you got to do. But hey, at least you have place to put it. I mean,
did I tell you recently that I just purchased a Lou Thesz autograph?
What?
Yeah.
Wow, that is.
I just wanted to bring that out there.
I mean, when did you purchase this?
Like a week and a half ago. I just came in the mail 2 days ago. So I had it framed up in a nice, I like the Lucite clear frames. And it goes on my wall, and it's an autograph. It's out of a scrapbook. So.
Huh. And I mean, in between this episode and last episode, went on a cruise. Thought of you because we went by Puerto Rico, and the whole
car. Stabbed while you were there.
I did get stabbed by Invader One in the shower because I didn't want to, sell something, sell a move. So he decided I'd stab me instead of going, hey, okay, let's just not do the match. Or there has to be, I don't know, that whole Brody thing. It's just like, I don't know. But that's, Bruiser Brody, I mean, that's a whole different topic. I mean, do you think he would have been even larger than he was if that hadn't happened?
Here's the thing with Bruiser Brody. He knew, and he would say it to people, that eventually he knew for a fact that he would have to go to WWF and he's going to have to job the Hogan. Like, he was preparing for that. And I get the feeling, kind of listening to other people talk and, reading, the books about him and what have you, that he, knew that he's going to do that job to Hogan, but that was going to be his retirement. Like, he's going to get this big lump sum, money from the WWF, have one last run there, lose to the leg drop. He was like, I'm going after that leg drop at some point. He knew it. He was going to have to do that. Now, what if the WWF would have brought him in? That's a whole nother bag of worms because of his reputation and some of the shit that he would pull.
Yeah, I mean, if he could go back and do it again, I'm sure he would have said, sure, I'll go to the WWF if he knew, kind of his fate. But
I think he would have been. We would have saw him in WCW, everyone like what they did with Abdullah in '91 when they brought in Abdullah. I'm sure they would have brought in Brody at some point, and I'm sure that although I don't think Paul Lee could have really fucked with his money like that, but he would have made a couple of shots for ECW.
Yeah, I mean, I think
with him and Terry Funk and Stan Hansen and stuff like that.
He would have been great in ECW. I mean, it was his style would have kind of fit.
You just had to pay him, or he would do shit like. If he didn't feel like he was getting treated fairly, he would do this. He would go to the middle of the ring, sit Indian style, and dare anyone to move him.
Huh.
Or he would walk out of a show, and he would go out the front door, walk around the ring, 3 times, and then walk out.
He did that a lot?
He's done it quite a bit. So if you fuck with his money or ask him to do something that he felt hurt his character...
He was gonna fuck with you.
He's gonna fuck with you. He wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
He would just stand in the ring and was like, nope, not doing it.
And you can see what his no selling got him. So I mean,
well, I think that's I think not to go too deep on the Brody, but I think they owed him money. They owed Brody money because I'm pretty sure that he bought into Puerto Rico. So
okay, yeah. I mean, that's another topic for another day. But speaking of, was binging last night and the past couple of days since we were back from our Caribbean cruise in December on your YouTube channel. If people wanted to find it, if they wanted to peruse it, if they wanted to subscribe, if they wanted to just fucking binge on the entire glorious shows, how can they find it?
All right, you want to type in retro wrestling games on YouTube, but the first thing that pops up, we have 249 videos currently up. And most recently, you're going to love this. Live from the LA Coliseum, we have the NWA 1984 project. Main event of that show was King Kong Bundy versus Bruiser Brody inside of a steel cage.
That sounds freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, people should always hit that little bell so they can get.
Make sure you subscribe, because I've been sitting at 1,503 for like 2 weeks. And like we're not moving. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
So we're looking at that. Our views are about 90,000 views in. So just keep on checking us out. We're going to have more reviews. We have Day of Reckoning 2 for the GameCube. That's coming up. We have the WCW World Championship Wrestling video game that came out in 90 for the Nintendo. That's coming up. We just did a review on The Final Round, which is a boxing game for the arcade. So check that out. And you're going to love this. Recently, someone did a hack or kind of a remake of Double Dragon. You remember Double Dragon?
I do.
The arcade game?
Mm-hmm.
That was produced by Technos. Technos also produced WWF Superstars. So what this enterprising individual did was put the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan in Double Dragon. So we're going to play that game and we're going to talk about it. That's going to be on the channel in a few weeks.
That's that. Oh man, I'm gonna have to watch that one. It's like and then one day I maybe make a run in on your channel.
It's coming.
And of course, I mean, if for some strange reason you can't get enough of the audio version of Retro Wrestling Rewind, we actually have a YouTube version. It's the same audio version except better. It's got pictures. It's got different graphics, got some great things on it. Just type in the Retro Wrestling Rewind, not just Retro Wrestling Rewind. There's another one. It's the Retro Wrestling Rewind on YouTube. Click on it. It'll search us. We'll be the first one. Like us, subscribe, push that little bell so you can get notifications. We have we have most of the shows up there each week. The great Alex G edits things down.
We're about, I think, a week and a half behind right now.
Hey, that's okay. I mean, it's
we're trying to figure out when to put that next show up so we can catch up. So
it's one of those things that it's a great kind of a extra. If you love the YouTube version, just like I said, subscribe, like. We're gonna have so much stuff. When we're at WrestleCon, we're gonna have some live stuff on YouTube. I mean, holy crap! You're going to get so much of us. I mean, and we're almost, mid, we're at the first part of December. January is going to be there, and then February, March, and then April. Holy crap. We're going to have so much. We're going to have live stuff on YouTube. Like I said, we're going to have live shows on some of the platforms. We're going to try to get as many Legends interviews. I've told myself, I said, Self, you're not going to sleep that weekend. From Friday when I get there in the mid-morning to after WrestleMania, I am not going to sleep because we're going to get as many people as humanly possible. And I may even bring some extra Olive Garden cards if Virgil's going to be there. So I know he loves.
He's not announced yet. So
yeah,
he shows up to all these things. So.
According to your list right now, the unofficial official list that you got from WrestleCon.com. Who is tentatively, what legends are tentatively scheduled to be there?
Well, we have a couple of modern guys, which we're going to skip. But we have Nikita Koloff, Jimmy Valiant, Barry Windham, J.J. Dillon, Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane, Ronnie Garvin, Baby Doll, Tim Horner, Johnny Impact, Tara Valkyrie, Missy Hyatt, Ted DiBiase, Tully Blanchard, Lex Luger, Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Madeja, never heard from WCW.
Uh-huh.
Pamela Paulshock, also from WCW. Tajiri, anyone else that? Ricky Steamboat, Teddy Long, Bill Apter, Jake Roberts, Buff Bagwell, because I know you want that interview with Buff Bagwell.
I mean, I definitely
He
know.
might take you out on a date too.
I know two Legends interviews that we got currently booked. Not 100%, but the ink is drying on the old negotiations. We're going to get Gary Michael Capetta back on the program because of course we had him on the Legends spotlight last time, and then finally, after many moons, we're going to get the great Bill Apter on the program. He has not for some reason had time to be on the program. He's always busy because he has like 5 jobs. His family.
Bill Apter?
Yeah. But
get him to tell the Andy Kaufman story.
I will definitely do that because I when he came to Atlanta where I live, he's a big Weather Channel mark, and that's the place that of my employment. And I took him on a tour. He just marked out. It was awesome. And so yeah, I'm gonna get him on the program. We're gonna have a lot of people. We may even get Alex G to be on some of these interviews. I know you're not a big fan of interviews. I mean, you're a fan of interviews, but you're not a fan of hosting interviews.
Conducting interviews, no.
Conducting interviews.
Because I sound like Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live. Like, hey, remember that main event at WrestleMania you're in?
Yeah,
that was cool.
I mean, it's one of those things. There's going to be so many opportunities. We're going to have some meetups. We're going to have. I already got a guy from Texas. He says he's definitely going to meet up with us. He's going to come. It's going to be a great event coming up in April, but we'll have more on that at the RW Rewind on Twitter and of course on our website at retrowrestlingrewind.com. Main event time. Ric Flair taking on Sting.
The first thing I want to talk about here are the judges, because I had to do extensive research on these judges. By research, I mean looking at Patty Mullen's Penthouse spread that she did. I was like, I find it very interesting that they got a Penthouse, essentially a nude model, as one of the judges for this event. That was very interesting to me. But yes, she's very hot.
Yeah, I mean, then we had Jason Hervey of the Wonder Years.
He wasn't a judge. He was just there for no reason, which is weird.
Ken Osmond from Leave It to Beaver. He played Eddie Haskell.
Check this out. Now, what I did to research for this show. Now, he was there promoting the new Leave It to Beaver, right?
Which is a terrible revamp, but that's...
Which I went and I watched like 6 episodes of it.
Good Lord.
And I watched the TV movie. The TV movie is actually pretty good. The syndicated TV show, which the reason why he's on this show is that, hey, listen, it was on the Disney Channel for 1 season, and then they switch over to TBS. So this is one of their few first run original content that TBS had. So that's why he's on this show.
And
by the way, Jason Hervey, we've seen him a lot in WCW, right? Yeah. We saw him a lot. He was dating Missy Hyatt. He was there quite a bit. Always a babyface. Now, Jason Hervey is one of the most punchable faces on the face of the earth, and his character in the Wonder Years was a douche.
Yeah.
And they should have brought him in as a heel, because I think, just like many other people, I cheered when Paulie Dangerously hit him with the phone and knocked the shit out of him. Like, yeah, that piece of shit, he got it.
Well, I mean...
And then Gary Juster, by the way, who is a local promoter out of Baltimore, still promoting with a Ring of Honor, from what I understand. So he's still around.
I mean, it was a great match, but we're going back. I'm still watching the show on the network. Another interview they had. I just wanted to kind of bring it back. Gary Hart and the great Latin sensation Al Perez. What were your thoughts on Gary Hart and Al Perez?
I like Al Perez. I didn't like him as the Black Scorpion, though. That was weird. I guess, Al, I thought, was probably a better heel than babyface, although he was an extremely good babyface. Like to see Gary Hart with them. They're going to do some shit with him, and then he refused to job the Flair in front of his hometown, which got him fired. He said he was going to shoot on him in a match, which got him fired.
That probably wouldn't have ended well. But, I mean, speaking of a match that didn't end well for Sting, I mean, at the time.
Well, there's a Ken Osmond, Jim Cornette interview here, too, which is hilarious.
God, two knuckleheads interviewing each. It's like, yeah,
Lots of Ken Osmond on this show. Again, a lot of Leave It to Beaver references here. Again,
yeah.
TBS has bought this show. This is right before they do Learning the Ropes.
Oh,
Which
with
if anyone
Lau
has that on tape,
Alzado.
If anyone has those on tape, like there's a couple like clips and there's like one episode on YouTube. I want to watch the entire fucking series because there's NWA wrestlers all over the place.
Yeah.
And Dr. Death Steve Williams was the stand-in for Lau Alzado doing all like the wrestling stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely I was a big fan of that show, but
I'm a big fan of these sitcoms and these shows from the 80s that never went anywhere. Now we all remember like all those shows. You remember your Knight Rider, your Different Strokes, your Facts of Life. You remember all the big shows.
Who? No.
A lot of people don't remember a lot of the shitty shows they had throughout the 80s, and there was a fucking shit ton of those. And I like to watch them because it's insane.
That sounds like that sounds like another type of podcast.
Like, you ever watch that show Malloy with fucking Blossom and Jennifer Aniston that was on for a season in 1990?
Yeah.
It was on Fox.
Yeah.
That show was awful, but it was fucking fantastic. Or Herman's Head. Love that show.
And speaking of match, that was fantastic. Ric Flair Sting. I mean, this definitely put him on the map as a main event superstar. I mean,
only 2 years till he wins the belt, so...
Yeah.
Here's the problem. The problem with this scenario was simply this. Yes, it made Sting a superstar. It took him from being lower mid-car, former UWF guy hanging around with Eddie Gilbert into a star. The problem is that they didn't do a whole lot with Sting after this. Like for the rest of 88. Like in 89, I think they eventually do give him like the TV championship. But not a whole lot of stuff going on with Sting.
Yeah, it's, I mean...
Like, the idea, and I know this was Turner's idea, they weren't able to pull a trigger on it in time, was eventually you want to get to the Sting-Lex Luger feud, right? That's where you want to get to. But the path they took to get there was fucking shitty. Because we eventually did get there in 92, but that's fucking 4 years from now. And they say, oh, Sting and Luger never drew. They were never in a program that meant worth anything. It was all shitty.
I mean, why do you think that was? I mean, terrible booking is just like...
That's a piece. There's a couple of really complicated pieces, and like a lot of it has to do with Flair. What do you do with Flair? This was always the problem with Flair. All right, what do you do with him? Supposedly, right? Magnum TA was supposed to beat Flair for the belt. What do you do with him? What do you do with Flair when Flair's not the champion? What do you do with him? And what made more sense to me in 1986, if Magnum was going to win the belt, if the accident didn't happen, you would have to send Flair away. You can send him to Florida, send him to Kansas City, send him back to the AWA, but he has to be gone for a while so he can come back. The problem was that Flair was there, and no one else can get over above Flair. Hell, no one could get over past Dusty. So that's why I think the Magnum TA title run would have been short.
Yeah, now that I look back, I wish he had become NWA champion. I mean, I think he would have done. He wouldn't definitely not hurt the belt. I mean, he was a great U.S. champion.
No, it depends. If Dusty was going to push him above him, then you had something.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want to do that Dusty heel turn and turn on Magnum to propel him to the next level, that would have worked. If Dusty would have been like, "Oh, Magnum's my pal," that shit would have not worked.
Yeah, I mean, I would have definitely loved to see
And we never got Sting and Luger until Flair left.
Yeah, I mean, and
then Luger never beat Flair for the belt.
Boy.
Never ever beat Flair for the belt. Never. He had so many chances. Like you go down the list of pay-per-view matches that Flair and Luger had.
Yeah.
He never beat Flair for the belt. When he won the belt, he beat Barry Windham because Flair vacated it because he got stripped. So I think that hurt overall in terms of Flair Luger's arc. It hurts his character because I don't think he ever beat Flair.
No. But
he should have won it. He should have won in '88, and you should be focusing on him and Sting for Starrcade '89.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the way it should have went.
It should have, would have, but it didn't. I mean, and overall, I mean, what would you give the Clash 1? I mean, it was the first Clash. It was against WrestleMania.
It has to be like a 9 out of 10 here.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean,
really
I would probably give
this
it.
Flair Sting match is really good.
Yeah, I would probably give it a 9.5. Other than the first match, the Mike Rotundo Jimmy Garvin match in the college rules.
But every show, even the classic shows, will have like one or two matches on it.
Yeah,
like there's matches that you could have replaced it. Like where the fuck is Ronnie Garvin on their show?
Yeah, I mean it's and it
Like I'd rather would have watched the Kevin Sullivan versus Ronnie Garvin match because they would have beat the shit out of each other. That's probably the better match. But other than that.
Yeah, it was a great event. It wasn't long, wasn't too short.
It goes by so fast too.
Yeah, I mean, most of those TBS shows went by great. I mean, it was great. I mean, it's back in the day when you couldn't fast forward, you couldn't DVR, couldn't record. It's like it was a true, TBS show. It was awesome, but it's one of those things that it's Clash 2, Miami Mayhem, which we'll be covering in the next couple of weeks. What were your thoughts? I mean, coming out of the first Clash, going into the second Clash. I mean,
the second Clash is again the big focus is it's Luger versus Flair. This is going to the setup for the Bash, and they do the autograph, the contract signing on the yacht, which is all what we'll talk about because that's fucking bizarre. You have a cool Sheep Herders versus Fantastic match. That's really good. You have the Garvins taking on the Varsity Club. Nikita Koloff defeated Al Perez. And then your main event, which is a really solid main event, which is Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard versus Sting and Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
You know who's not? You know who doesn't wrestle on this show?
Who?
Ric Flair.
That's weird. But I mean,
that's the way Clashes went sometimes. Because sometimes you would get like these like Flair is on a Clash 3. Flair doesn't come back to Clash 4, and he's in a tag team match, which this is an awesome match, by the way, which is Flair and Barry Windham versus the Midnights.
Yeah, I mean, we'll hopefully definitely cover that in a future episode. But of course, folks, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we were at the RW Rewind on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Retro Wrestling Rewind Facebook page, just like that. If you want to go read about our story, about my story, about Alex G's story, about how we got into wrestling and how long we've loved wrestling. And if you want to see some of the archives, it's at RetroWrestlingRewind.com. And one more time, if people were not paying attention, if they were normal wrestling fans and they were just, listening and didn't write any things down, how can people find and listen and watch your retro video games?
The first thing they got to do is they need to Google Patty Mullen and then look at her Penthouse layout that she did. Huh. After that, after you're done doing whatever you're doing, check us out on RW Games Presents on Twitter. We are at almost 4,000 followers, so again, join the party.
I mean, it's definitely one of those parties. It's probably similar to that what they call the penis party with Joey Ryan at WrestleCon. I'm
not involved in no penis party.
I don't judge. But speaking of things,
I once saw a donkey show though.
I don't even want to know what the hell that was, but that sounds like something they do on Long Island. But speaking of judging, next week we're covering Royal Rumble 1989. What were your thoughts before we wrap up the program today on Royal Rumble 1989?
Well, let me say this: Royal Rumble '89. I got that tape for my birthday. I guess it had to be, I would say the birthday of 89 or maybe the birthday of 90. I'm not 100% sure exactly when I got that tape. But my sister, who was away at school, brought that tape back and gave it to me for my birthday. So in terms of nostalgia and sentimental value, that show, definitely has that for me. I watched that show 1 trillion times to the point where I have the commentary memorized. So I can just have that show in the background in my house. I know exactly what's happening because I've seen it so many times. And any time that I've had a bad day or feeling kind of blue, I pop in that show because it gives me a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling in my stomach. So,
well, that was nice of your sister to bring that back. I mean, it's like
best birthday present ever, by the way.
Ever. Best birthday present ever.
So I got that, Rambo 3, and she got me a WWF magazine.
And of course, I'm looking it up, and of course, I'm looking at Royal Rumble 1989. That's kind of a preview. The great commentary that was the Rougeau brothers in a tag match, but
6-man match.
Hey,
Is the Rougeaus and Dino Bravo taking on the Art Foundation and Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
nothing. Nobody.
Two out of three falls. International rules. I don't know what that means.
I have no idea. I don't know what international rules are. I mean, but we will find. If you want to know what international rules are, you have to come back next week.
They never explain that.
They never explain that, but we will try to explain it next week when we cover the Royal Rumble 1989. So, for the great Long Island IZ, Alex G, I am, as always, David Fine. We will see you back here next week. We once again look back and give our great respect and rewind and look back at Royal Rumble 1989. And as always, it was the best birthday gift ever that Alex G ever received.